Pumela there? Ah, there's Pumela.
Mr. Kingsley Okeke, please, let's unmute you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been an amazing session. I'm guaranteed that everyone on this session has gotten so much information. Some of the speakers have spoken that if we were to, depend on this or rest on this program, we probably will be spending the rest of the day discussing the great Madiba's leadership lessons. But we may not be able to take all the questions, but I can assure you that if you have more questions, you can use some of these platforms to drop them, and would, as much as possible, try to respond independently afterwards. We'll pass on your questions to the appropriate authorities. But very quickly, each one of us here would give us their memorable quotes from the great Madiba. I understand that we have a treasure trove of information, but we're going to just take one from each member, each of the speakers and everyone who has spoken today, so that we can remind ourselves of these lessons, and as we go, we can hold on to these lessons and continue to remind ourselves that we must live by this quotes. And I'll just go from, let me just, in no particular order, I would go from what I see on my screen. And let me go first by Janine. Janine, would you be kind enough to give us your leadership quotes?
Yeah, I think something that's been very relevant to me in the last couple of weeks, and that has been courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. I think none of us live with that. It's not the absence of fear. It's the inspiration of others to move beyond that. I think that's one of the great sayings of Madiba. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Courage from Jennings. And I would like to take, of course, a quote from Ashraf, my very good friend. What is your own, what's your most favorable or memorable quote of the great Madiba?
Well, the reality, Kingsley, is I probably could give you 10 quotes, and they're all relevant. It's almost like such a terrible thing to tell us to say, give me one, when the truth is we can give you so many, right? And I suggest people must, I'd love the audience to say, hey, this is my favorite quote, and they can't do it even on the webinar. They need to tweet all of us and share that, because I'd like to think, what is your favorite Mandela quote or Madiba quote? But yeah, this is not necessarily my favorite, but I think it's the most important in the context of what I had to speak about today, which is champion leadership. And this is what he said. He said, what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others. And that will determine the significance
I totally agree.
Of the life we lead. So, hopefully you've got that. It's the difference we make to others. And that for me is the very essence of authentic leadership, servant leadership, and absolutely champion leadership. And really, I'm not going to emphasize, I can't overemphasize this, but it's that important. Do we as South Africans and do we as Africans, do we fully understand that we've had Madiba in our midst? And do we value that? Or do we expect him to solve every single problem of ours in our country and our continent when he himself said, I'm not a prophet? Think about that, because the onus now is on us to pick up that quote, and can we embody that in our lives?
Amazing. I totally agree, Ashraf. 10 or more. There's so much from the treasure trove of the great Madiba. But because we're pressed for time, thank you for that amazing quote. And I would just like to take the quote from Mr. Busani. If you're ready, can you just give us one of your memorable quotes? I understand you have so much, but one will just suffice for this particular event.
Yeah, no, thank you. The one is the one that I was referring to, which is a speech he was giving to the Public Service Commission in 1996.
Well, if it's not ready at the moment, I think we can take from Wofai. Wofai, are you on? can you give us one of your most memorable quotes of the great Madiba?
Can you hear me? Kingsley, can you hear me? Are you able to hear me, Pumela?
Yes, please go ahead, DJ Ngcaweni, and share the quote with us. Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you. It's basically just to paraphrase. He was speaking in 1996 to the Public Service Commission. One of the most important speeches he gave to public servants, that for the majority of South Africans, the public service was seen as a hostile instrument of an oppressive minority. And he said we must transform it. And then he closed it by saying, no doubt this task will produce much more testing times. And given where we are now with COVID-19 and so on, these are those testing times. And by going back to draw on his wisdom of that time, we should get an inspiration, therefore, on how we must deal with the testing times ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I wouldn't be surprised that that one also became your favorite, as you are the principal of the National School of Government in South Africa, and public service is very close to your heart. Thank you, DJ Ngcaweni. Over to you, Kingsley.
Network glitch, and I'm sorry about that. Please accept my apologies. For me, I think the greatest or one of the greatest quotes, like Ashraf will put it, and not, of course, there's so much to talk about, but because of my personal belief of about leading from behind, there's a great quote from the great Madiba, which says that lead from the back and let others believe they are in front. It means that oftentimes when people take absolute control of leadership, as it were, when you democratize leadership and allow people to take control, you find that you inherently have built in them the confidence to take their own destinies into their own hands. At a time like this, I believe that what we all need to do is to make our people understand that leadership is not positional. Leadership is not about who is occupying the office of a minister, a governor, or a president, or whatever. We are all leaders in our right. So if we're able to lead, in our own individual spaces collectively, would of course make the difference that we desire as a people, as a nation in South Africa, as a continent, of course, as a continent and as a people. And I believe that going forward, this should be the central message for leaders across the continent. Let's lead from behind and let the people believe they're in front. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Wofai, what is your memorable quote? You are muted, unfortunately.
I sincerely apologize for that. So my best and favorite memorable quotes of the late global icon Nelson Mandela is, anyone and everyone can achieve success if they put in a lot of hard work and commitment over time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Lolobo Jabavu as well, who shared there that leadership is not positional. I must say that in the context of what we've gone through, I reflected a lot on which of the Madiba quotes that would speak to the current situation. I must say myself, I have a lot of favorite Nelson Mandela quotes, but here's one that I will share with you. He said, no one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or religion. People must learn to hate, and if they learn to hate, they can be taught love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. Thank you to those participants who are also sharing their favorite Madiba quotes. Thank you, Ashraf, for making that clarion call for the participants to share. I see Dili Dube, she says, a winner is a dreamer who never gives up. Thank you for that. Dili Dube is actually in the United Kingdom, and she's been nominated for 5 awards in the upcoming Mzansi Jazz Awards, and she will be traveling from the UK to South Africa for such an occasion. Thank you for joining us today. Alebong says, action without vision is only passing time, and vision without action is merely daydreaming. Wow, can we get our team to capture all of these, because they really are quite inspirational. Thank you for everyone who's sharing their quotes. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to close this up. Oh, okay. Brianette Lebovitz, he says, courage is not the absence of fear. Wow, we're getting a lot of participation. Thank you so much to each of you who is participating today. You can just see the enthusiasm amongst the participants. And I really trust that you are coming out as reinvigorated as I am from the discussions that I held here today. More so for each of us to play our part in making this world a better place. Let me tell you, no deed is too small, and no person is insignificant to be the change that they want to see. So today, we've seen, ladies and gentlemen, that the recurring theme is that of honoring Mandela, who would have thrived in this conversation, because he felt that, let me quote him, he said, good leaders fully appreciate that the removal of tensions in society puts creative thinkers on center stage by creating an ideal environment for men and women of vision to influence society. We have heard today men and women of vision sharing from different perspectives, authentic leadership, Janine, champion leadership, Ashraf Garda, servant leadership, DG Busani Ngcaweni, and the overall message from the DG of GCIS, DG Ms. Phumla Williams. And by his own admission, ladies and gentlemen, Nelson Mandela made mistakes, both political and personal. However, his human flaws and his weaknesses did not deter him from the bigger goal. He referred to himself as a winner, as a sinner who keeps trying. He said that he is a sinner who keeps trying. And the Nelson Mandela Foundation has published a book which mentions the disciplines and the principles of Nelson Mandela's leadership. They highlight these as listening. He spent more time listening than talking. It is humanity. He believed in the fundamental goodness of human beings. Pain. The way he saw pain is that he chose to see pain not as pain, but as painful. So he saw it as something that you could learn from. And he also took responsibility. He took responsibility for failure, knowing that failure is unavoidable. His principle was liberating oneself, and he believed that you have to liberate yourself before you liberate a country. He also had humor. In his later life, Nelson Mandela was really renowned for his warmth and his humor, and he came to know and to learn how to laugh at himself. And recording was one of his principles. Mandela loved to write, and he wanted to write notes on paper, hard paper, and he was an obsessive creator of records. He also respected time and taking care of body and soul. He led a healthy lifestyle. Even in prison, he used to exercise every single day. He also had a unique ability to befriend mortality. He demonstrated that a lifetime of befriending death is always part of life. And what we saw is that Nelson Mandela as a leader had an extraordinary sense of timing. I think Kingsley Okeke referred to this. Nelson Mandela seemed to have an instinct for knowing when he should lead from behind, being the shepherd behind his flock, and when he should lead from the front. He had a fine instinct of knowing when to give ground and when to take it. and when to wait and when to move. And so these are disciplines that anyone can learn and everyone can use them to help finding the leader within themselves. I would like to thank Stella Hatang, the CEO of Nelson Mandela Foundation, and Verne Harris, who was Nelson Mandela's archivist from 2004 to 2013, and Verne is also with the Nelson Mandela Foundation. They both co-authored the book called I Know This to Be True about Nelson Mandela, and they shared this book with me generously. And how I personally got to know Mr. Nelson Mandela is through education. Nelson Mandela believed that education liberates, and he promoted access to it at every turn and in every possible way. He personally gave me a scholarship to study in the United Kingdom. When he gave me the scholarship, he said, "You are my ambassador. You carry my name." And for that, I will forever be grateful. He believed so much in education that he said, education is a great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become the head of a mine, that the child of a farm worker can become the president of a great nation. It is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another. Thank you to the DG of GCIS, Ms. Phumla Williams, for her keynote address. Thank you, Mr. Kingsley Okeke, the managing editor at Africa Leadership Magazine. Thank you to our moderator, Ms. Wofai Samuel, who is the director at the UK-Liberia Chamber of Commerce. Our esteemed guest, DG Busani Ngcaweni, who is the principal of South Africa's National School of Government, the CEO of Janine Hills Authentic Leadership, Ms. Janine Hills, whom I call the Queen of Authentic Leadership, and the visionary behind the movement, Champion South Africa, Mr. Ashraf Garda, who is the founding champion of this organization. This webinar would never have taken place without the participation of each and every one of you who is our audience today. Thank you so much for the gift of your time. Thank you for joining us on Zoom and YouTube and Facebook. And please, after this, share the webinar amongst your friends. This message that was shared today really needs to reach far and wide. Thank you for your participation in the discussions as well. And we hope that you have taken something from Nelson Mandela and the examples that have been shared today in order to fulfill the leader inside you. Mandela himself said, the world is full of people with natural leadership qualities. And so with this, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Brand South Africa, I myself as a UK country head for Brand South Africa, and on behalf of the African Leadership Limited United Kingdom, thank you for joining us. Have a good day further. Thank you so much.